Got my inceptors here finally. Ah, sweet stickers. Dude, I love stickers. Maybe I'll put one. This doesn't seem to be peeling off. The corners easier. Let's try one of the corners. Yeah. No? Alright, what if I get this? Maybe I'll try this one here. Doesn't seem to be working. Ugh. Nice. I love decals. I use it for scrolls and screens and shoulder pads, and sometimes I even get custom ones. So I got 4 shoulder pads here, all a different faction, and our first step is actually going to be some polyurethane gloss varnish. This is kind of an important step because you want something a little stronger than a normal varnish so it doesn't rub off when you put any decal solvent or anything else on there. I'm just going to give all of these a nice good coat with this polyurethane varnish. Got a Space Wolf, a White Scars, a Dark Angel, and a Blood Angel shoulder pad to go through kind of slight differences that you can do on these decals. So we're going to pull out our cutting mat and our decal sheet here. These are Games Workshop decals, obviously. Now, Games Workshop's been getting really better and better at these decal sheets. If you look here, the decal film that surrounds the decal is just getting smaller and smaller. You used to have to cut around them and kind of trim the decal film back, but right now you can just cut a big old square from these new decal sheets and the decal is going to fit where you want it without doing any excess trimming. It's really nice. Just going to finish these up and I'll meet you back when they're done. Here we go, all 4 cut out. Now, if you want to do weathering or some excess scratching, now's the time. This is a pretty coarse sandpaper here on a little nail stick, a little emery board. So we're just going to come in and I'm going to put some light scratches here and just like take one heavy pass on the corner here, and that gives a more like scuffed up look. On this next one here, I'm just going to put a line through the top here and just kind of put a scratch in it. This will remove all of the decal film, so I might have 2 decals in the end here that I'm going to have to put together once I transfer this on. I'm just going to put a big old scratch to this Blood Angel one, just one nice neat scratch. And then for the White Scars one here, I'm actually going to come in with the tip of the X-Acto knife and kind of pick off little chips. And that's going to give it this cool kind of chipped effect. And for the Dark Angels one, I'm just going to leave it completely plain so you can see kind of what that looks like when you don't actually have any weathering and chipping done to it. So I'm just going to leave that one the way it is. It's actually time to apply the decals. So I'm going to take some dish soap here. This will lower the surface tension of the water and let it flow a little bit easier, make the decal a little easier to position, as well as dry the water will dry a little bit faster because it won't bead as thick. We're just going to mix that up here. And then I'm going to come in and just use a brush and put water on the decal and let it soak into the decal. If you put the decal in the water, you run the risk of any of the decal floating away into the water, especially when you put scratches on it. That can be a problem. Really don't want to go bobbing for decals if you don't have to. And that brings us to our shoulder pads now. So now that these are all nice and movable, they're nice and loose on the decal film, we're going to come in with some tweezers. Now, these tweezers are pretty good. There's nothing wrong with them, but I really like these third-hand tweezers. They're kind of reverse grip, so when you press them, they open, and when you let go, they close. So that is going to give me a little bit more control over these because I don't have to worry about squeezing the tweezers to hold the decal. The decal is just going to be held in place as default. So I'm just going to double check that this decal is still nice and loose on here. I'm going to get some water. I'm going to put water on the place that I'm putting the decal. I'm going to shift the decal onto it. And then I use an X-Acto knife. A lot of people use a brush. I use an X-Acto knife to position it. I feel like I get more control with the X-Acto knife. You just have to go really light You want to make sure you're not scratching the paint or the decal at this point. I mean, accidental weathering is a totally valid technique, but it's nice to keep it to a minimum. And that brings us to the white scars one. So this one, the shoulder pad has a bit of rope coming across it. Now, I don't want the decal to look like it's been pushed up because the rope is there. I want it to look like the rope is laying over the decal. So what I'm actually going to do is put the decal over the rope. That's why I haven't painted the rope yet. So I'm going to put the decal over the rope. It's going to look a little funny and wrinkly right now, but we're going to fix that in a minute. We're going to move on to the next decal. So this is the Blood Angels one. Now remember, we put a big scratch in this one. That's going to come into play right about now. So it's gone all the way through the decal film and made this basically two different decals. So I need to align them together to make this look like one coherent chapter badge with a little scratch in it. So I'm going to worry about the biggest part first and get that where I want it, and then align this other little tab to fit in with the decal, because I do want a scratch still to be there. And that moves us to the Space Wolf decal. Now this one is not basically two decals. That scratch went for sure all the way through. So again, I'm going to position the biggest part of the decal first, and then the little snout of the wolf here, as you can see, it's a totally separate piece. So I'm going to position the biggest part first, and then come back and position this little snout piece onto the wolf head and make sure that it's nice and aligned. So now we have all four decals in place, but we're not quite done yet. This is where the big guns come out. And by big guns, I mean Solvaset. This is the decal solvent to use. It comes with a brush. Sometimes I use it. I typically use a normal brush. This stuff is water soluble, so you don't have to worry about using something special to clean your brush with. But it melts decals. And this is one of the reasons that we use the polyurethane varnish to start with. Acrylic varnishes like Ard Coat, they're just not going to protect the paint well enough. They'll actually dissolve with this decal solvent. And even if it doesn't, sometimes it'll discolor when this decal solvent dries on it. So polyurethane has done me well. That's what I use. And at this point, we just don't touch it. And here's how they look so far. They're doing pretty good. The decal has laid down into where I want it. Decal film's not really showing very much. On to some speed painting. We're just going to paint the cord on the white scars shoulder pad here. Just going to cut in the red. And that brings us to even more decals. This is the Sisters of Battle decal sheet. I really like all of the little scroll work on the side here. The purity seals are really cool. I use those for a lot of the purity seals I do, but their names are what we're after right now. These are sisters' names, but if you're just going for something that looks good, this will totally work. And this may be the perfect opportunity to get some custom decals made. You can name your guys whatever you want. After I got this last decal in place, I put some of the Solvaset on top of it and let it dry completely. And that brings us to our next step. So with nameplates, be it gold or scroll work, I really like putting some Agrax Earthshade over it. It blends the decal into it a little bit and makes it look kind of weathered and aged, and it also makes the scroll or the gold pop a little bit better. All right, and at this point, our decals are looking good. The nameplates are looking good. You could stop here, put some matte varnish over these, and be done with it. However, I typically go one step further. These are oil paints. The ones over here are water mixable oils. You can mix them with water. It's weird, I know. These are normal oil paints. For the rest of this, I'm going to use the water mixable oils. So I've mixed up my own kind of browns. I've got a reddish brown, kind of a grayish brown. I like to mix my own browns, and I like to have them varied throughout the army. So now I'm going to take this other brush here, and I'm going to put a tiny bit of water with a little bit of soap in it. and that's going to help blend this in. So what we're looking for here is a filter wash. So you're going to have kind of some pigment floating around that's going to cover both the decal and the shoulder pad to give it a similar color between both so they actually look like they're coherent. With the stark white, especially with the Dark Angels on the Caliban green, the stark white is such a difference that it looks kind of out of place. For each one of these, I'm going to mix up a slightly different color. You can also blend the colors and use multiple different browns to give a varied effect across the shoulder pad or across your whole model. This is especially helpful when you're doing tanks. I also try to make sure that I'm going in a direction to almost give it a story. So with the shoulder pads, I'm going up and down mostly to kind of give the feel of rain or just, dirt raining on top of them and coming down over them. So I'm just going to work my way through all of these, make sure they look good. One of the big advantages with oils and water mixable oils is the drying time is pretty long, so you have a long time to work with it. So with this white scars shoulder pad here, I can come in with the Q-tip and make sure that I'm not overpowering the white with another color. The other advantage with water mixable oils is you can actually clean your brushes with just some dish soap and water. So at the end of this, it's a pretty easy cleanup process. So we're going to work our way over to the Space Wolf decal, and I'm going to add a little bit more yellow into this to make sure that it kind of blends in with the yellow of the shoulder pad and blend through here. And once that's all done, you can seal it all in with a matte varnish of your choice. The water mixable oils normally takes a few days to dry, but if you matte varnish it, it's pretty much instantly dry. And here they are, all matte varnished and ready to go. I hope this gives you a little bit more insight on how to do decals yourself. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And if you've made it this far in the video, well, thanks for watching.